Welcome to Modern Day Abigails, a women's outreach of Calvary Chapel, Pearland. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new." So let's listen to God's Word, where everyday lives transform and where we can become the women God created us to be. So that's why I want to put that on there. That means part of being humbled is in putting others first. Sometimes it does hurt.
It isn't fun all the time.
Sometimes it's not fun all the time.
Sometimes we have to give up something that we don't want to have to give up.
But that's part of being loving somebody, not giving up and keep praying for them. Yeah. I mean, if you're a believer, you better be praying for your spouse. And I'm not talking about praying as in make them love me. What you have to do is pray and go, Lord, where am I not loving? I had to do that. I had to say, Lord, where am I not loving?
Yes.
And,
right? Okay.
Yeah.
So when I was married, and I wanted to blame 100% of our mess on him, and which is ridiculous because I had my own mess. Now, in category wise, it was pretty messed up, the things that he did and the way that he acted. I didn't do any of that. I wasn't a cheater. I was completely faithful. I wasn't abusive, anything like that. Everything that he was, I was not. Therefore, I'm clearly in the right and I'm 100% correct in this marriage. That's bull. I had my own mess.
Right.
And the Lord showed me, he wasn't a good husband, but you have your issues too, and we need to work on them.
Right.
And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And I was very angry. He says, no. I said, oh yeah, what are they? Okay, don't ask that question because the Lord started pouring them over me to the point by the time he got done, I was curled up in a ball.
Yeah. All right.
Looking at my sin.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord, I told him callously, and the Lord showed me my sin.
Right.
And I didn't do well for 3 days.
Right.
Literally curled up in a ball on the floor, looking at my sin, processing my sin, accepting my sin.
Right.
So,
right. And that's why, that's
where I don't even know where was I going with this?
Because we were talking about being humbled and putting others first. But what I said is this goes back to love. And we have to ask ourselves, where am I not being loving? We can't blame the other person first.
Yes.
That's that judging thing that everybody misunderstands.
Yes. Own your own mess.
Yes. I have to make sure the plank in my eye is removed before I can look at somebody else and say, hey, can I help you with that speck in your eye?
Right.
I understand what you're going.
Sliver.
Yeah. And we can do that because we have been through the lot. Look, I've been through what we've run into. I've run into girls who've had babies out of wedlock. Mm-hmm. Hey, guess what? I can help you. Right. You don't have to stay this way. You can change.
Right.
And it works out. Yeah. So I can help because I got that. I'm not dumb. I did make a mistake. I did do something, I shouldn't have done.
I wasn't married to Sean's dad ever.
But at the same time I learned from it and didn't do it again. Right. I'm not going to say it was perfect, but I could help somebody else because I had to look at myself first. And that, when I started going through this study, I had no choice but to say, okay, Lord, where am I not loving?
Yeah.
Because you think you're a pretty loving person until you start asking the Lord to show you. You're like, yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah,
it takes a brave person to ask the Lord to show, for him to show you your own sin.
And part of it is because a lot of it, we trap it in our head. And we think that just because it's in our head and didn't actually come out of our mouth, well, it's not the same. No. What's in your head is in your heart. Yeah. It's going to come out of your mouth if you don't get a check.
Right.
And that's where we go into our next one about not being
Or it may not come out of your mouth, but it shows all over your face. Expressional face.
Right. Or your actions. Yeah. There's a way to hand somebody something and there's a way to chunk something at somebody.
I was going to say that, yes.
Yeah. Sometimes, there's a different... Now, some people do it.
Stomp off. Yeah. I'll get it.
Slam a few cabinet doors. I might be guilty of that one. Not very loving when you slam the cabinet door shut because you're mad.
Right.
Because you're being...
Then it may not have come out of your mouth.
No, but it came out of other ways.
You might have said, yes, dear, I'll get that for you as you're stomping off and slamming doors and
calling them names inside your head.
Right. Or even under your breath.
Yeah,
or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't know.
Which goes back to the next one that says not rude. which is bad manners, impolite, discourteous, disrespectful.
Yep.
Now, some people are not trying to be. I want to say that out. Men are not women. Okay, ladies? We're going to say it one more time. Men are not women. And what we think that might be bad manners or discourteous or disrespectful, in their mind, it is not. Sometimes they are just being men. Although it was funny the other day.
Gosh, and that's where I say I'm so glad I'm a woman.
Well,
men are gross, Anna.
Sometimes they are. But it was so funny the other day because Ray needed to spit, but he put his hand back. Wait a minute. He stops and he puts his hand back.
I'm joking.
It was so sweet because he put his hand back and I'm like, what do you do? Oh, he didn't want to make sure I didn't get in the way. It was so sweet.
Oh,
I mean,
oh my God.
He had no choice.
No words right now, okay? No words.
Hey, sometimes things get stuck and you just got to, okay?
Oh, God. Okay, moving on, please.
No,
I'm gonna throw up.
No, don't do that because I have chest, I always get stuff in my lungs. So I was at that mission field in the ministry and I started coughing up and I'm like, there's nothing I can do. I was out in the middle of the field. There's no trash can. There's no nothing. I was as ladylike as possible behind a tree. Okay. And I'm like, I am so sorry. And the guy's over there. The guy looked at me and goes, that's fine. No big deal.
Good one. I give that a 10.
Exactly. He didn't see any problem with it. I was mortified.
And that's the reason why God makes us completely different.
No. But I do want to say this. Men are not women. Don't expect them to be. But at the same time, there is a certain things that are bad manners and are impolite, discourteous, disrespectful. I can't fix your spouse. I can't fix your child, but I can help you.
Right.
Ladies. You can have good manners. You can be polite. You can be courteous and you can respectful even when the other person doesn't deserve it.
Agreed.
That is what love is about. Yeah. It's not accepting bad behavior, but you can make the difference in how you talk. I've seen people do it before where when you're kind, they apologize.
Yeah. Because
you've been kind. They'll go through it. They'll make rant and rave. And all of a sudden at the end, they're like, I'm sorry. Because you stayed courteous. You stayed polite. Mm-hmm. You stayed. I've seen that. We used to say that all the time in the reception world. We would say it's easier to catch bees with honey or flies with honey. And we would be, even if the person on the phone was as rude as could be, we would stay extra sweet and extra kind. One lady got flowers because of it.
Oh,
the guy felt so bad. Well, that was back in my old days when I got a little envious because I'm like, you know how many times I have been yelled and screamed at? It happened to her one time.
Nobody
she gets
flowers.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it happened to her one time. She got flowers. It happens to me all the time, and I nothing. But anyway, I'm glad she did.
Yes, and we have another excuse like that. Example like that. We have a mutual friend who they were both party animals, and she gave her life over to the Lord, but he had not yet.
Right.
And so the Lord told her after he had come home on one of his binges that, treat him with kindness and love and show him what love is. And her actions actually brought him to Jesus.
Exactly. So,
and I love their story.
I do too.
I love y'all's story because she listens.
Oh, she does? Oh, that's good. What I was going to say is, and it does make all the difference. I do it all the time. I work with hundreds of people all the time. All over the world.
All over the world.
And I have to stay one way, and that's polite and courteous. And there are some, I just want to scrape my nails across the desk because they're just the way they talk to me. But I have to remain how I am, because how am I going to tell people about Jesus if I'm not being nice?
If you're not representing, we're supposed to represent.
Yeah. Now, I'm not talking about, people do, I've seen people who go, well, you're a Christian, you're supposed to do this. One, you don't even know what Christianity is. How can you be lecturing me?
And why aren't you doing it yourself?
Two,
what excludes
but
you?
At the same time, we do need to be extra nice. Yeah. Even when somebody's not being nice.
We are supposed to represent Jesus at all times.
Exactly.
Like
the
it or
way
not.
we speak. The way we speak is going to say a lot because what's comes out of our mouth is in our heart. Yeah. What does Ray always say? What comes up in the bucket, what's in the well comes up in the bucket.
Comes up in the bucket.
Exactly. So we want to make sure we have good, clean water in our well. And that part of that is, being nice. It goes back to kindness.
Yep.
All right. We're ready? Next one?
Sure.
Does not seek its own. Okay. That's where I was talking about it earlier, about contrary to popular belief. it is not about you. You don't actually deserve whatever it is people want to tell you to deserve. What we really deserve is death. But if it weren't for Jesus, who came and died in our place, who paid that debt.
Right.
Otherwise, it's pretty much what we deserve. So if you're not what does it mean to not seek its own? Does that mean you help other people succeed?
I'm going to go with yes.
I'm going to say that's one of the things is I make sure is that the people around me, I help them to make sure they succeed.
Right.
Because Jesus wants to make sure we succeed. Doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
He does.
Exactly. So if we're going to be like Jesus, don't we want to help other people succeed? We want to help them. We want to help make sure they get where they're going.
Paying that forward.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
So when you're not supposed to seek, does not seek its own, again, it goes back to it's not about being you. It's not about you.
It's a very unselfless.
Right.
Wait, very selfless. Yes, selfless.
Yeah. It's not about yourself again. It's going back to self-denial.
Right.
If you're not seeking it, it's about, help other people. Help people get where they need to go.
Yes.
Because while you help people, think about it. I started thinking about it. Esther, she found favor wherever she went.
Everywhere.
I guarantee you she did not favor because she was puffed up and rude.
Mm-hmm. Ruth did too. She found favor wherever she went.
Yeah, because she looked after other people first.
So did Joseph, by the way.
Yeah. He did have a little bit of an attitude adjustment at the first.
Right. Okay. After he was a slave,
he
found favor.
The Lord gave him, the Lord humbled him.
Yeah, he did.
And he took him through and even at the end, he said, what you intended for evil, God intended for good.
Yeah.
And sometimes the Lord does take us through things so that we can change and be different.
Sometimes he allows us to be a slave to our sin.
Right. Because we're not going to give it up no matter what. And when we get tired of it.
We're a little hard-headed. Some of us are.
And when we get tired of it, and then he's like, are you ready? You ready to move on?
I always tell the girls that I'm mentoring, until you're desperate enough, you'll stay right where you are.
Right. And I've seen people do that. They won't move until it's time.
Yeah. And I was desperate enough to call upon the Lord and allow him to do whatever he wanted.
Right.
Not everybody is there.
Yeah. Right. All right. So which comes to our next one, not provoked. Okay. Love doesn't provoke. You don't pick a fight. Ladies, you're supposed to be a quiet, gentle spirit. Don't pick a fight. And it's very easy to pick a fight. I'm very sarcastic.
Me too.
I have to really put a check on that because it's not appropriate. Now,
I agree.
Did Paul?
For myself, not for you.
Well, I'm going to say Paul sometimes was sarcastic.
Yes, he was.
But there was an appropriateness to his sarcasm, which is amazing enough.
Peter was sarcastic as well.
So sometimes we can be a respectful sarcasm.
A silliness. Playfulness.
Sometimes mine is not. Mine is just.
I'm saying if you're being silly and playful.
Well, that's different. Yeah.
Than being rude and sarcastic and one-upping somebody.
Well, I had someone tell me that I was going to have to wait for a quote because they were in a sales meeting. I was going to have to wait a week. And I just, kindly said the best way I could. I said, you're telling me that you do not have a backup plan? Am I understanding this correctly? I had my quote the next day.
Right.
I just want to make sure we're understanding this. This is what you're telling me. I wasn't trying to pick a fight, but the answer I received was not the correct answer.
Right.
So we had to rethink about this.
Yeah. You had to rethink.
We had to rethink about this whole situation. Yeah. So sometimes, but
like it or not, they had to rethink with you.
Now, that was the one thing I was guilty of with my ex-husband. I used to pick a fight with him. And I said I picked a fight with him because I wanted his attention. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that it was not true. But there is definitely better ways of getting someone's attention that doesn't involve fighting.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're going to skip that list.
Yeah, we do not need to provoke anybody. Yeah. And in fact, we don't
keeping it G.
Right. Don't provoke your children. Don't provoke your children to wrath. Don't pick at your children.
Right.
You're the parent. Mm-hmm. You don't have to fight with them. They may be just like you. Mm-hmm. Remember that. I read something the other day that says the boy wants to do something, and the husband's like, no, you two. I'm not going to listen to you and many you argue this. It's too late for that.
You and many you.
Exactly. We don't need to go through this. And so that's why, and I think this is important. We see it all the time. People picking a fight.
Yeah.
Thinking somehow that's macho and cool to pick a fight.
Mm-hmm.
No. Walking away sometimes is much more.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
Walk
picking
away.
a fight to deflect the situation. To
That's
call
true too.
Attention off of you.
Right. And to put it onto somebody else.
Yeah. Also
right.
not godly.
No. Sometimes, marked on the desk, sometimes you just have to, sometimes walking away is better. Taking a short walk.
Sure. Cooling off.
Yep. We've had it where we didn't agree with something. We just back up, take a walk.
Yep.
Come back together and let's try this again.
Right. Round 2.
Usually what happens is you wind up thinking it out and they're like, oh, you know what they said was not really wrong.
Right.
I understand what they're saying now. Sometimes you have to. So ladies, I'm going to say it. You don't have to fight with your husband. You don't have to fight with him.
I agree with that completely.
You can walk away.
Yeah.
I have found out taffy is really helpful. Saltwater taffy.
Do we want to know why?
Yeah, because when you're chewing it, you can't fight when you're chewing saltwater taffy.
I see.
I'm just saying.
Do y'all have a little cup?
Not here. This was at my old job.
Okay.
My old one of my old jobs. I used to. I had a few coworkers who could really get me going, and I had some taffy, and I found out it really helped.
Chewing on the taffy. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I chew on the taffy. That way I couldn't say anything.
Yeah, I like that.
Because I didn't want to provoke, because I had a bad temper back then. It was when you were listing out the other day, I was like, I realized I forgot. I had a really bad temper. It didn't take much to get me going.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn.
And here's another thing. You're always saying perception.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What if you perceived your husband was saying something and that's not what he meant at all?
Exactly.
But you didn't take the time to find out, or vice versa.
Yeah. Ask questions. You don't have to pick a fight. You can ask nicely. That goes back to that not being rude.
Honey, can you please clarify? I'm not understanding what you're saying.
What do you mean by that? And there is a way to say it that way too.
Yeah,
be careful. You don't want to go. And what do you mean by that?
And exactly what do you mean by that?
That's when you stop and go, wait, I think I misunderstood you.
Yeah.
Could you please clarify that for me? And I've done that one with some of my coworkers. I'm like, hang on.
But I've got something in my head, but it's probably not what you mean.
Yeah, I think I'm misunderstanding you. Could you please explain this one more time?
Yeah.
I've also been known to go, are you saying blah, blah, blah? And I get a quick, no, that's not what I'm saying. Okay, just making sure.
Exactly.
So there is a...
Is this seriously what you're telling me right now?
Yeah, exactly. I have to watch it because like I said, everybody knows I'm the believer.
Me too.
I have to be very careful. They're all waiting for me to cuss. I have not cussed yet. They're waiting for it. So again, ladies, when you really love someone, when you truly love somebody, you're not going to pick a fight with them. So if you're having a fight with your husband, I want you to challenge you and ask you, do I really love him?
Ooh, say that again.
If you're starting a fight, you have to stop and ask yourself, do I really love him?
I like that.
Same thing with parents and children. Parents, if you're fighting with your child, do you really love your child?
You can do that with your friends too.
Yeah, with your friends. We're making a list. We're making a list. Your friends, siblings.
Yeah. Coworkers.
Heck, doctor's office, vet.
Sisters.
You
said siblings. Yeah. You said it.
If you're fighting with them, you have to stop and ask yourself, do I really love them?
Yeah.
And if your answer is no, you got to fix yourself. You need to be worked on.
If your answer is yes.
If you really do.
That's questionable.
Yeah. If you say yes, then you're going to have to stop and say, I'm sorry, I don't mean to fight with you. Yeah. You're going to have to apologize. Yeah. Even if they started the fight, you have to apologize for your part of the fight. They may not even admit it, but you can do it on yourself.
Right.
And I know there's going to be women out there who's saying, look, I am so tired of being the one who apologizes. Yeah. I'm tired of being the one who has to give everything up.
Yeah.
But don't stop. Because enemy wants you to stop.
Sure.
Enemy wants you to stop in a bad way.
Yep.
Because the Lord's not done.
Listen, we were separated and I had to call my soon-to-be ex many times and apologize for things that the Lord told me to apologize for. Wasn't super happy about this.
No.
And I didn't understand why I had to do this.
It was humbling.
It is super humbling. And it also, the Lord used it to change my heart. Now, of all that 20 years, never once did I ever get an apology to this day.
No.
About anything. Even when I was calling him up and apologizing for something I had done, all he would say was, thank you for that. Never once did he apologize.
Right.
And I would get off the phone and I would be so mad. And the Lord said, that wasn't for him.
Right.
Honey, that was for you.
Right. So that you didn't harbor the bitterness and the
Exactly.
anger. Because
Exactly.
there's a lot
Again,
out there.
something I didn't understand that I was supposed to do, but I did it anyway.
Right.
And then the Lord told me later.
Right. Exactly. And that's the deal. That's when you really love somebody, you're going to keep going.
Yeah.
You know, most parents love their children and they will do anything for their children, however long it takes. We can do that for anybody. If we truly love, we're going to keep on going.
Yes.
And we're not going to stop and we're not going to give up. We're going to get prayer. We're going to ask for help with praying. We're going to find us a prayer partner. We're going to find us a scripture to hold on to and to pray over.
Yep. You don't have to do it alone.
Nope, you don't have to do it alone. That's the one thing the enemy wants you to think. Oh, you have to do it alone. Nope, you don't have to do it alone. Not at all. All right, this one's I have really had to work on this one. Because I'm going to tell you what most people say it is, and they're right. But I'm going to add one extra layer. Thinks no evil. This is like ungodliness and immoral. But what about false accusations? When you think that your spouse or your sibling or a coworker or a boss is actually doing something wrong. I guess what I'm saying is, maybe since we're talking about love, maybe you think your spouse doesn't really love you. Or you think your boss really hates you. Or your sibling's out to get you. Is that part of thinks no evil? Is it just thinking no immoral thoughts or ungodly thoughts? Or can we also add that we should not be thinking that the other person, we shouldn't be thinking evil thoughts about the other person's thoughts towards us? Does that make sense? Am I explaining that right?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes they are out to get you.
Right. But should we think that? If love says thinks no evil.
Meaning we should be giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Should we be giving them more grace?
Oh.
Is it wrong if I think, let's pretend I think my husband doesn't love me? Is that thinking evil? Because that's not true.
Oh, yeah, that statement's completely false.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Let's pretend.
Yeah, but wow, the enemy can really mess with you, can he?
Yeah, he can. So he can, it might be that you're not thinking an immoral thought, but you might be thinking somebody else is thinking an immoral thought.
Yeah.
What's that meme that goes around with the wife laying in bed looking at her husband and going, I bet you he's thinking about another woman. And it shows him going, now if bread is brown because you make it with wheat, if I make it with this, would it be a different color? You know, have you seen those memes? I can't think about it.
No, but that's
yeah. It's where the guy is completely thinking of something not even related, and she's over there thinking he's thinking about another woman.
Yeah.
Well,
Again,
to me,
perception.
Yeah, but to me, that thinks no evil means she shouldn't have been thinking that.
Agreed.
If she's not supposed to be thinking of evil, you shouldn't be thinking about other people having evil thoughts. Yes. And I think that one happens a lot because we create a story.
Yes.
And we stick to that story. And that's where I go back to the perception.
Even if none of it ever actually even happened.
Perception is reality, but it's not truth.
Right. Oh, yes. It's our reality.
Yes.
Probably nobody else's.
I used to have a teacher who always said that. Yeah. He always go, perception is reality. And he wasn't wrong on that. But it needed to go one step further that we said that perception is reality, but it's not truth.
Right.
And so we had to be very careful about those scenarios and those stories we create because we are going to react to those stories that we have created about other people. You know, my boss hates me and wants to get rid of me. That may not be true. Your boss might be thinking you're the greatest thing that walked on
since sliced bread.
Yeah, sliced bread, and they just kind of have a habit of using you and abusing you because you're such a great team player. You know, you don't know,
right?
But we can't create a story either. We cannot. We have to give grace. I'm not saying bad. I'm not saying we accept bad behavior. I'm not saying that it's okay to abuse is okay. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is we got to give grace where it's properly given if we truly love. Now, bad behavior does need to be dealt with, and it should be dealt with.
Right. So if you're thinking that, man, my husband might be cheating on me, and he has already cheated on you 15 times, chances are he probably is. But if your husband's never cheated on you, not one single time, and you still got those thoughts, then there's an issue there.
Exactly. Now, and if you did have a spouse who cheated, who apologized, you need to create an accountability.
And flipped around and didn't do it again.
Right.
And followed the Lord and got his life right.
Exactly. You need to make sure if they did it, if they made a stupid mistake, because men aren't women. If he made a mistake and you're the woman,
can make those mistakes
let's say,
well.
and if you're the woman and you made the mistake, you need to understand that there's got to be accountability so
Absolutely.
that you can give them the ability to be able to trust you.
Right.
It is not automatic. Like I said, we used to tell our child, hey, it's about accountability, not trust right now. We need to know that you're accountable for your actions. We don't want to put you in a bad situation. Yeah. We got to know where you are.
Trust is, if you've lost trust with somebody, then you do have to work on re-earning it.
Well, and the thing is if really seriously, I agree with the statement. If you trust your teenager, you're an idiot.
Agreed.
Because they have not lived. They have not grown up. They are still making poor decisions because they haven't. I mean, I know adults who we still make poor decisions.
And they still think we're stupid. So that they do take things in.
Sometimes our child actually was pretty good about telling us, hey, you were right. Thanks.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wasn't going to put him in a situation where he's going to get himself in trouble. Right. You know, and that's the same thing is, so if you have done something that you shouldn't have done and there's trust issues, you need to work together to rebuild that trust issues. You know, maybe it is having a find a friend. Ray and I have find a friend on our phone. It's not because we're tracking each other because we don't trust each other. Right. Sometimes it's because I get a phone call going, Anna, why are you on I-10? Okay, I know I went the wrong way. Right. All right, let me get you back the correct way. Exactly. Sometimes it's like, you know, he'll get to talking to people because, you know, he's spreading the gospel message. And sometimes he gets to talking and I'm like, well, I don't want to necessarily call him. What if he's in the middle of preaching the message? Right. So I look at my little thing and I'm like, oh, okay, he's still over there. He's at the coffee shop. Okay, he's talking to somebody. Right. You know, it's not that I don't trust him or he doesn't trust me. I'm just like dinner was an hour ago. Right. Right. Yeah. What's going on? And then he comes home and tells me this awesome story. You know? Oh my gosh, you're going to have to guess what happened. Exactly. You know? So sometimes you do have to work on it. Sure. You know, but the thing is you're not supposed to think evil. Don't let that be your first thought. Don't, like you said, if he hadn't come home in an hour, don't let your first thought be. Usually the first thought is they cheated on you. Then your second thought is they're dead. But then you go back to that they cheated on you because you really don't want them to die. I mean, think about it. Vicious cycle. It is a vicious cycle. But I, you know, early years, you know, I remember having that. I'm like, oh my gosh, why isn't he home? What if he's cheating on me? Anna, that's dumb. What if he's died? Don't go back to cheating because I'd rather him do that than be dead. You know, so dumb. Such logic. I know, I'm way past that now. Right. But, I hope so. Oh yeah, I'm way past that. But that's what I'm saying is some people, that's their tendency to go to evil thoughts. It's not just about watching porn. It's not just about watching inappropriate movies. It's not just, or reading inappropriate books or thinking about stealing or you know, thinking about killing somebody. You know, it's not just about that. It's also thinking that somebody else is doing evil when they're not. Right. They're over there doing something completely innocent. Right. You cook the story up in your head and the story literally only exists in your head. It's not real life. And that's where you have to go again. That's where we talked about it last time. You have to ask the Lord, what's the truth? Right. You know, help me. Pray, ladies, pray, 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 pray. Without ceasing. Yes. And give thanks in all circumstances. Okay. We ready on this one? Sure. All right. This is the one. I'm telling you, when you go to the stores and you see your cute little signs, I love Hobby Lobby, but you'll see your cute little sign with love, patient, love is kind, da-da-da. They never put, does not rejoice in iniquity. Is that the next thing? Yep. Does not rejoice in iniquity. In other words, does not agree with sin. You can love somebody without loving their sin. You can love somebody and not like their actions. Correct. Yep. We are not to accept sin. To me, and I'm going to say what you think, if we don't tell people about hell being real, do we actually love somebody? It's a holy hush. Yes, that's a hard one. Because I personally have family members that would never even consider listening to me about that. And that's not what I'm talking about, though. You have a desire to tell them. I'm talking about... I'm shaking my head, yes. Yeah, I know. I can see your head shaking, yes. I'm talking about people who don't actually ever want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about hell is real. They would rather let them get away with their sin instead of talking about hell is real. Now, I'm not saying to jump out and go tell somebody that, because that doesn't necessarily work either. You have to wait for the Lord to tell you that it's time. There has to be, that was the best advice I ever got, is make sure it's in the right season. Right. But I'm just taking in general context. If you truly believe in hell as the Bible describes it, you would have to be full of hate not to want to warn everybody, I think.
Well, that is a convicting statement.
And I do, like I said, I get that. There's a time, place, and a season. But we should always be ready to tell the gospel message at any moment, because we are to love people to Jesus, because we should focus on the heavenly things for eternity. But there's a lot of people walking around who claim to be a Christian, who follow Jesus, but they would never tell anybody about the gospel message, even when they get a chance.
Right.
Even when a friend walks up to them and says, look, what is this Jesus thing that you believe in? And they still won't tell them about hell and to give up their sin. And they'll tell you, oh, well, I love this person. No, if you really love that person, you're going to tell them the truth and you're going to show it to them. But I'm not talking about your opinion. You're going to take your Bible and show them in the Bible, look what this says, sweetheart.
Yeah.
I did that one day with one of the when we were at our old church at a youth group, and I just watched the way he lived his life, and I'm like, that kid can't believe. Right. No way. So
no fruit whatsoever.
No fruit. So I asked Ray, I said, can I show this? It was a young man. So I said, I need to show this young man this Bible scripture. He said, yeah, go ahead and do it. I'll stay with you. And I showed it to him. I said, read this. And he read it out loud. It was Galatians 5:22 through 23. I said, what do you think? He goes, I'm none of that. I said, if you didn't tell me you're a Christian, I couldn't tell. Mm-hmm. And then later on, he gave his life to the Lord because he realized he wasn't. But I had to love him enough to take a chance to say, and his family, because his parents were around.
Right.
I had to love this person enough to say, hey, look, your life does not represent Jesus. Are you sure you're saved?
No reflection of Jesus whatsoever.
Sometimes we have to do it. So that's why it says, does not rejoice in iniquity. Sometimes you have to do the hard stuff.
Right.
And you have to tell somebody what you're doing is wrong. Here it is in the Bible. Like I said, I'm going to tell you, there is a time, a place, and a season. Like you said, there are people who won't listen. Mm-hmm. I've tried telling people before, and it just, forget it. All right. I'll wait. When it's time, I'll know.
Right.
So that's the part where I was saying is, you don't ever see that one on the signs, because there's too many people out in this world to teach that are saying, oh, it's okay. You can do that. It's okay.
Right. Just ask for forgiveness.
Yeah. Or it's okay that you're doing that. God loves you anyway. God loves you anyway. If you really studied God's love, you would realize that, no, he doesn't like that. And you need to tell him the truth.
Right. He hates that type of behavior.
Exactly. So that's why it goes back into the next section and says, rejoices in truth. If you don't rejoice in iniquity, that means you rejoice in truth.
Right.
Thank you for letting us share our tools to become the women God created us to be. If we encouraged you today, visit us at moderndayabigails.com. Remember, you are loved, cherished, and prayed over.